Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy here, also known as ETCG1 when I post videos on this channel, and I begin my videos here on ETCG1 with if it is your birthday, I want to wish you a very special happy birthday. Today's topic of discussion comes from a discussion that I had with a fellow business owner this morning. In fact, I went to the fabricator today to pick up the last of the parts for the Fairmont project, at least the last of the major parts for the Fairmont project, and I hope the last of the parts for the Fairmont project. But anyway, it is Drew Fab is where I went. It's in Harrison, Ohio, right there on State Street on the Indiana-Ohio border. And we had a long discussion today about, well, I don't want to say the revolving door, but let's just say he's gone through quite a few employees over the years. As stated, he has a fabrication shop and he hires, he has at least 3 people on staff and a 4th that was there. And well, there are a number of issues in that regard. And I'm going to preface my comments before we go any further with, I am just voicing my opinions here. I'm not saying I have solutions to everything. I'm just voicing what I feel help contribute to this issue. And that issue is the labor shortage in America, the US of A. So if you're watching this in other countries, you may have other input and other experiences. That's all great, well and good. But specifically, I'm speaking about the US of A, which is where I live. The reason this comes up is because Drew recently, well, he lost one of his employees. And the employees that he gets are somewhat hit and miss. And this is in fabrication, it's not auto repair. However, I feel the same thing coming from the auto repair industry, and I also have seen it firsthand. And that is, there appears to be a shortage of people wanting to be auto mechanics, or in Drew's case, wanting to be fabricators. And as a result, that means that the pickings are somewhat slim, or at least they appear to be. And all the articles, the stuff that I read about this kind of thing, it comes up a lot. It's not just me that thinks this. In fact, studies have been done and they say, you know, obviously doom and gloom for the future because of this. And what I'm basically speaking to is getting employees that, first of all, show up would be great. And that have the necessary skills to perform the job. In previous ETCG1 videos, I've talked about becoming an automotive technician and how I feel getting an automotive education is integral to being an effective technician. And many of you have countered with the fact that, you know, you didn't go to school, you don't feel like you need certifications, any of that kind of stuff. You just jumped right in and you're ready to go. Okay, fine. But here's what at least I've seen in my life and in my career with this. It seems to me that the people that would be doing vocational jobs, say auto repair or fabrication for that matter, or maybe even things like HVAC work or pipe fitting or electrician or carpenter, stuff like that. It seems that, you know, back like say when my dad was a kid growing up in the 50s and 60s and eventually ended up going to Vietnam. So he's a Vietnam era person. And I would think part of the last generation, the baby boomers, that were a part of a generation where you didn't necessarily have to go to college to have a career. You could graduate high school, in some cases not even graduate high school, maybe get a job at the local factory, or you know, maybe you get into auto repair by working at the local gas station and working your way up through the ranks and, you know, learning from the old timer and becoming an auto mechanic because you were tutored and mentored. I think those days are over. And maybe not completely over for some locations and some places, sure. You know, I'll leave that door open. But I would say for the most part, I think those days are over. Especially things like factory jobs, stuff like that. A lot of our jobs here in the US have been shipped elsewhere because of cost, let's face it. I mean, the almighty dollar is what rules here in the United States, and if it costs less money to produce it in some other foreign country, then they're probably going to do that because that helps increase their bottom line, which in turn many times helps keep the company afloat. So sometimes, yeah, it's just flat out greed, and sometimes it's a matter of self-preservation. If you can't compete with the other companies that are doing the things that you're doing or making the products that you're making, how long are you going to continue to produce products in the US if you can't afford to pay your labor force? A whole other discussion. What I'm getting at is those days of graduating high school and having, being able to learn the necessary skills, or walk into a job to where you can learn skills and develop a career, possibly a long-standing career. You might work for the company for 20, 30 years, and get your health plan and your retirement and all that kind of stuff. I'm not seeing that happen these days. I'm seeing that, companies have to move a lot faster. They have to do a lot more to stay competitive, to stay up to date in the digital age. Well, as a result, we've got young people coming up through the education system here in the US that aren't really taught vocations anymore. I mean, it used to be that in high school you could take an auto shop class or something like that, and at least sort of get a taste of the basic skills required to either repair vehicles, or in Drew's case, fabrication, maybe do a little welding, something like that. And I'm not saying those programs don't exist. What I'm saying is it seems to be that we're so cash strapped that where we cut costs in our education system is with those programs. Whether it's standardized testing, whether it's, just a shift in the dynamic of the society, once again, that's beyond the scope of this video. I'm just talking about the fact that it seems like, and it almost seems like it's always been this way. When I was in school, 30 years ago now, it seemed that those of us that rode in the back of the bus, for lack of a better phrase, were told, okay, you may not be college material, so you might do well as an auto mechanic or doing something vocational. You're not college material is basically what they're trying to say. And therefore, I think that got associated with those professions going forward. So in other words, if you went to your parents today and said, I want to be an auto mechanic, and I get emails from people that say these types of things, I want to be an auto mechanic, and parents might come back with, no, you're not going to waste your life doing that. And that, I think, is the core of the problem. It's the stigma associated with labor and hands-on intensive jobs. These jobs are necessary. I mean, Mike Rowe did an entire series, Dirty Jobs. And one of the reasons he created that series was to make the general public aware of all the different people that make all the little pieces behind the curtain work so that you can live your life. All the people that work in sewage plants that, climb up tall buildings to wash windows, stuff like that. And I think the drive behind that series, once again, was to make people aware that these jobs are out there and necessary, and put a face to them. I mean, you may not necessarily know the guy that's digging the ditch or, hanging the power lines during a thunderstorm, because some tree fell over and you don't have power, and somebody's out there having to work to restore that. Some laborer. Here's the thing that's so frustrating to me. We're not dumb people. In fact, take fabrication, for instance. Fabrication is really the execution of engineering. And you go to college for engineering. So it's not something to be taken lightly. And if done well, it can make great things. So I just think that somewhere along the line, we've gotten this stigma that working for a living, going out and sweating, turning wrenches, things like that, is something that is a bad thing. It's something that you shouldn't do. Getting your hands dirty is, ew. No. We have to have people fixing our cars and fixing our stuff and making our stuff and making it so that, when we flip a light switch, that the power actually comes on. There's so many people out there working every day to do these types of things, and they're not getting the credit they deserve. And I applaud Mike Rowe for making that series to try to bring attention to that. But I think for me, in my eyes, it goes back to the education system. And if you're sitting down with that guidance counselor, you're a young, impressionable person, and they tell you that, you're too smart for auto mechanics or becoming a fabricator or an electrician or something like that. No, these are highly skilled people. I mean, they're not just working with their hands, they have to work with their hands smart. Especially now, auto mechanics are not dumb. I've talked about this in the past. These days, you have to know electronics. You simply have to. I mean, it's hard to even do a brake job without sometimes having to reset a computer. Seriously, at least having the general skills for that kind of thing. And I'm not saying it's rocket science, but what I'm saying is understanding those systems and how they work is not quite rocket science, but it's getting there. I saw a report recently on a news program that said that it was possible to hack any modern vehicle because they're connected vehicles. And this branches off into another video I've done about telematics and all that kind of stuff. But one of the fears expressed by some of you is the ability to hack a modern vehicle. Well, okay, that's possible. But it's also possible to repair a vehicle from a terminal or figure out what's wrong with it. So in other words, the same skill set, this is the reason why I bring this up, the same skill set that you would need in order to hack into a car are the same type of skills that you could use to fix them. So why not make that a more glamorous job? Why not make that seem more appealing to people rather than trying to steer them away from that type of thing? I think that's lost, because without people to do the heavy lifting, without the laborers that are out there, the auto mechanics, as I said, the plumbers, all those people that do those things that make our daily lives possible, our daily lives aren't possible. Simply put. And if we keep steering young people away from getting into the industry, if we keep letting them think that somehow there's a stigma associated with being an auto mechanic, like it's a bad thing, we're not going to get anywhere. We're not going to remain competitive in the world, and we're going to have this shortage. As I said, Drew and I had a long discussion about this, and finding good employees. I mean, sure, there's always personality differences, and you have to fit your way into a work environment and all that, but having the skills necessary to perform the job, that's key. That's job one. And that's why I've often advocated that automotive education is key to a successful automotive career, because you need that. But if it's not available in the high school you've been to, so you have no time to dip your toe in the water to find out if it's right for you or not right for you. I mean, when I was in school, they had electives, and you had to at least try something, or they gave you the opportunity to try something that might be outside your comfort zone. And I think more of that would be necessary. My own kids. Actually, my son really isn't interested in auto mechanics so much, but my daughter is more interested. In fact, I've taught her, how to lift cars. I've taught her how to change tires. I've taught her how to weld. And at 11 years old, I was teaching her how to drive out in the parking lot on a Sunday afternoon with that '99 Civic. Perfect car for that kind of thing. And she did great. And because she has an interest in it, I'm not going to take that interest away and say, oh no, you might break a nail, something like that. No, you got an interest in that? I don't care. I'm going to help guide you through that. In fact, what do I do on YouTube? If nothing else, I like to think of myself as a confidence builder, to try to enable people, or at least give them the courage to go out and try something themselves that they might not necessarily have the courage to do. If they see me struggling doing it, they might think, you know what? Everybody struggles with this. Might as well just dive in, see what I can do. Well, that's what I want you to walk away with from my videos. That's what I do. And, in some small way, I'm trying to combat this issue that I feel, that I'm trying to talk about in this video, that I feel is something that we need to address. And we need to stop ignoring it, and we need to start looking at, all the other jobs besides those high-paying executive blah, 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 whatevers. Because there's plenty of that. But there's not so many people in the job pool, and part of that might be because of pay, and as I said, there's a lot of things beyond the scope of this video, but I just wanted to put it out there based on the discussion I just had with my fabricator about this very thing. Seemed like a good topic for ETCG1 since we talk about stuff here. Now, I'd love to hear more about your opinions about this down in the comments, and I'm sure I'll have plenty of it to read, and I'll do my best to read through as many as possible. But if you have automotive questions, I ask you to head over to eric.thecarguy.com. I'll link that along with other stuff in the description, including I'll put a link to Drew Fab if you're in the area around Harrison, Ohio, and you're looking for a job as a fabricator, and you've got skills. Looked up Drew, and perhaps you can get a job there. Tell him I sent you. Links down in the description for all that stuff. I close my videos with be safe, have fun, stay dirty. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I will see you next time.